Good Friday afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. Victor?
Hey, that's me.
2 weeks in a row. We got two weeks in a row.
Hey, imagine that.
It can happen. Engen, good to see you. Neil, it's been a while. Thanks for coming back. Karen, good to see you. Hope everybody's had a good week so far. Because if you haven't, the weekend's here already, so it doesn't really matter. Because the week is...
Unless that means that you have to work over the weekend.
Unless you're working the weekend, correct. Which I will be. Different conversation. Sebastian, good to see you. What have you done this week, Victor? Anything?
Trying to get back on track. You know, I had 2 weeks of vacation, and that means that I'm 2 weeks delayed in whatever I'm doing.
Right.
Now I think that I'm now on top of stuff. So
you're almost there. So you go away for 2 weeks, and it takes 2 weeks to get back. So really, you took 4 weeks off.
Yeah, I mean, go away for 2 weeks, and then then you need to work day and night to catch up.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. Hi, by the way, my name's Darren. This over here is Victor, and we are the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox that comes out on Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Eastern, and on Fridays when we're around, we're here, usually at this time. We're getting close to the time again to where time's changing.
I never know when it's changing. I couldn't care less. My phone is waking me up.
Yeah, well, yeah. Unfortunately, we don't do this type of thing at that time of night. We'll leave that there. We Are Developers is finished in Berlin. I saw an announcement from... Who was it? I don't remember. It looked like Stack Overflow announced some stuff. Was it called Overflow AI?
Who knows?
Who knows? All right.
But it must be AI. That's certain.
It must be AI. Let's go and take a look at this week's... Oh, good. Liked it. That's
very cool.
I hadn't even heard of it until today. So
it's actually very, very, very big.
Is it? I guess
I don't
in
know
Germany.
This year, but when I was there before COVID, it was probably like 5,000, maybe 10.
Oh, okay.
I mean, massive. Big.
Measurable. Yeah. Interesting. Of course, that's massive to you. Wait till you go to AWS reInvent and there's 60, 70,000 people.
Yeah.
That's
not massive. That's insane. They can just rent the whole Vegas to AWS, right?
Just two of them. Just 2 hotels.
Just exactly.
Things that aren't insane is this week's podcast. We had Ravid on from Seemplicity, and we ended up talking about security and how much we all love getting the stacks of findings. And the stacks mean literal stacks of spreadsheets printed out. Back in the dot matrix days, right? Continuous thing, you just flow it out. You know, you have this many criticals, and you have this many highs, and then you have this many mediums, and then belows I can't show you because it's below the list.
And this is how much I don't care. The reaction from everybody else.
Yes, because you realize, okay, you're giving me this list of things to do, and by the time I actually get to it, they'll already be out of date. Which is one of the things we talked about.
You know, for many people, it is very hard to do some work or get something done if the list of tasks you need to do is just overwhelmingly impossible, right? I think that's what many companies do as a terrible mistake, right? Hey, here's 5,000 security issues that you need to fix in your in your project, right? You know how many will be fixed if you give somebody 5,000? 0. Now, if you give somebody 5, then you stand a chance
of
to
maybe
get 5 fixed.
Maybe
right?
5, but maybe 2.
Or 2, but it's still bigger than 0, right?
Yeah. Don't give me a list. Ari, I will say we need a better picture of poor termites being called bugs. I know. It's the only thing that I could find that had density of animals that look like bugs. So I wanted crickets, I wanted millipedes, I wanted something I couldn't find any, so it ended up being termites.
Hey, yes. Darren, when are you going to start using one of those AI tools to generate those?
Midjourney? I have thought about it, but I don't want to pay $50 a month.
Is it $50? Oh, fuck.
For the pro model or pro subscription for it. Yeah, and that's the one that I would want to have because it removes a lot of the constraints. And I don't want to pay $50 a month right now, but yes, that's what I've been thinking about. Yeah, that's because that is going to replace logo generation, like all the artists that create logos and those kinds of things. Midjourney already does it wonderfully today, and it just gets better every release. But
wait, that's the one that goes. I haven't tried. That's the one that works through Discord. Right? Yeah.
Discord. Yeah. I had an idea. Here, let me go back. I'm gonna go back full screen for a second. We were doing the AMAs over on Toolkit on Thursdays.
Yeah, in the past, yes.
In the past. Of course, we still do this. We have the Slack workspace, and we've hesitated going to Discord for reasons, just because the Slack workspace has...
laziness, I guess.
It's laziness. But I heard one thing listening to a podcast this morning that I believe it was from Oxide Computers. They basically have once a week, it's sort of like an AMA, but it's audio only. And you can bring people up on stage, or they can ask and chat, but it's more truly interactive. They called it social audio, which I'll buy it. But then they take that and turn it into a podcast on their normal feed.
Okay, sounds interesting.
So not edited, other than chopping the front, chopping the back. Right? It's just bam, bam, ship. Which sounds wonderful to me, as the editor.
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
editing part. I mean, I don't think that those things should go through heavy editing anyways,
no,
right?
They shouldn't, because of what they are.
I still like faces.
Yeah. So that seed was planted today. We're not doing anything anytime soon, just because I've got enough to deal with for at least another 6 months. But I'm sort of letting that one churn a little bit.
Let's put it this way. I'm open to anything that doesn't require me to prepare something.
Prepare anything.
Or do something afterwards. In other words, I behave like a spoiled brat, kind of like, hey, if I can just come to a certain place at certain time and then 1 hour
show
is
up,
never
do
a
your
problem.
thing, and leave. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's like me, tomorrow I'll be spending almost 2 hours cutting this show up. That's my Saturday mornings.
Cutting it? This one?
What
do you cut?
So there's a whole process. I think for this one I have 57 steps after this is done to actually close it out. Yeah.
Oh, heck.
There's a lot that goes on. Yeah, because there's snippets that go out on Monday and Tuesday on Twitter, or X now, I guess, and what's the other one? LinkedIn. And now YouTube Shorts, since it's video. I'll put all three of those. And then there's closing out, so I have to find those, convert them, which doesn't take too long. It takes me longer to find the right clips than it does to actually generate the clips.
Yeah. You need to look at the preview, and whenever one of us is in a full screen, you know that's the one.
Well, fortunately now, because what we're doing is we're recording isolated videos, so when I put them together in my editing, I just cut myself out, because it's always just you. So I trim myself out while you're talking, and then bring them back in. Anyway. So anyway, I'm thinking Discord at some point. How do we get... Oh, Midjourney. You were talking about Midjourney. I would love to do that. And in fact, my wife wants to do it, but I can't justify the $50 right now a month.
So here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
Once you pay the monthly fee and you generate whatever you generate, you have full, how do you say?
Permission to use?
Right, permission to use?
We are not lawyers on this channel. Therefore, what we are getting ready to say does not construe legal. No, because if it's generated by a machine, there's no way to copyright it.
Okay, so if nobody can
so can I use
it?
It's
legal. Exactly.
So as long as I'm using it and I'm not trying to claim it. So if somebody stole it from us, great, because it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the way I would deal with it anyway. There's a guy I follow that creates, unfortunately, a lot of presentations because he does a lot of pre-sales. But now what he's able to do is he'll go into Midjourney and type up specific images. So he's not going to get clip art or going out to the sites like I do now and try to find it. He's just generating it. So like I do pay for an image site. It's $140 a year, which is still cheaper than the $50 a month. right? So if I can justify the offsets, then I'm willing to look at other things, but not yet. I thought Twitter and Reddit were dying. Everyone moving to Mastodon. No, that's not true. Not even close.
No,
Some people may be, but it's... Now, I did say... Or actually, I did sign up for an account on Blue Sky this week. Just because. But that's the only one I've done it.
I feel that what is happening often is... And we have the same thing. What's the Meta's name now for the Twitter-like thingy?
Meta is Threads.
Threads, right?
Right, which everybody has left, it seems. Not everybody, but many people have already left.
So what is happening is the pattern that somebody announces something that replaces something, and then everybody goes to check that something, right? That's what happened to Mastodon. That's what happened to Threads, and so on and so forth. Now, the fact that you get millions of users in a couple of first couple of days does not represent really whether they're going to stay there, because everybody's curious. Everybody goes there, and then everybody in most of the cases, not always, people come to where they came from, right? So I'm skeptical about people leaving Twitter for Threads, and I'm skeptical people leaving
Reddit for
Slack
somewhere
for,
else. Slack. Well, Slack and Discord.
Discord is different, right? And Mastodon is more like Discord. I'm not sure actually.
Mastodon is a decentralized Twitter.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's dead in the water. I mean, I tried it myself to set it up, and then I realized, hey, I really don't want to manage this thing. I don't want to manage my own server and all that stuff. Or I misunderstood how it works. And then a lot of people talked about it. A lot of people invited me, and then a lot of people stopped using it. That's how it works.
Yeah.
But the biggest issue with Mastodon I have is that you cannot expect every single person to host their own instance of that something. It just it's silly. I don't want to do that.
No. Thus, we go back to centralized all over again. There's a storyline here. This is, mark my word, distributed applications are going to die, and they're all going to become monoliths again.
It goes in circles, yeah.
We're headed in that circle. I mean, we're in that circle right now.
Yeah,
not,
but, you know,
not all, but the simplicity of monoliths.
There is a very big difference between, hey, should I run myself things as microservices, or should I run myself things as monoliths? And that goes back and forth. But when it comes, should I run myself, like Mastodon, or should I just use the service run by somebody else? Oh, yeah, it's centralized, it's this or that, but I don't want to do the alternative.
Exactly. So
I'm not doing that.
But here's a use case that I believe that I am going to run something. Have you heard of Gitty or Git EA? Gitty, right? So it's it is a very much I'm not going to call it a GitHub clone because it's not, but it's very GitHub-like that I can self-host. That's not GitLab. Nothing against GitLab, but it's a lighter weight solution. I have some things that I'm getting ready to do that I only need a single repository for, but I do not want it to leave my four walls. Okay. Because I'm basically writing my death plan, if you will. Right? I'm getting older. My birthday was last week. Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. But I'm needing to write down the things of, okay, what do I want done when I pass? Where are all the financial things? What are the account names? What are just the things you need to be writing down and leaving behind anyway, right? Because just because of access to a computer and a phone doesn't mean they're going to be able to get in.
And you don't want that something to be accessible to random people.
I don't want it potentially accessible on GitHub, even as a private repository.
But then you can also make it potentially inaccessible to those who should access it.
Correct. But the thing is I want to be able to maintain it as basically an ASCII doc book.
Fair enough.
And then generate it as a PDF and then print it out. And then that's, it's the printout that's going to matter, but I want it completely internal. I'm willing to make the pain of that while it's being maintained, because that makes sense to me, because I don't want to do it in Google Docs. I don't, or or Microsoft 365 or Office 365, whatever it's called today. I want that inside my four walls. Because, okay, sorry, I went all off. Different.
Fair enough.
But there's reasons why you might want to run something. But it had better be a really good reason.
The important change, I feel, is that now you need to justify why it's not in the cloud, why it is not SaaS. And if you justify it, fair enough, you go like, use Git, right? But it's not, it was the other way around in the past, right? You had to justify why not to use self-managed something. And that's the major difference. There is space for both cases. I have no doubt about that. It's just a question of what is the default option, right? And the default option for you probably was GitHub. And then you realized over time that, hey, for this specific use case, I'm going to self-host it. Great, power to you. I like it. But it's important that that we are now starting from different points in general.
Right. And I don't really need Gitty. All I need is a Git repository. Right. I mean, I could just say Git init, and I'm good enough. But Gitty gives me the ability to do things a little bit nicer, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, instead of me trying to remember, okay, what are the things I need to do? I can just open up an issue inside of Gitty. Right. I can track it all right in that one place. So it's not that I'm using it as Gitty. I'm using it as my document management system that's within my full control. Anyway, different conversation. Podcast comes out on Wednesday, 6 a.m. Eastern. And yes, we may be using termites again in the future. I don't know. We're talking about GitHub Repository Rules. Check this out. We've had branch protections before, just basic branch protection, like protect main. Don't allow me to delete main, which, if you think about it, we should be able to delete it because main is nothing more than a convention. That's probably a hot take to a lot of people.
Yeah, but that's where you make a pull request. That's what you're protecting.
You need somewhere to land.
Exactly.
Yep. So anyway, repository rules built for scale, blah, blah, blah. Protected branches, no big deal. Time for a new approach. Okay, you ready? You can create all sorts of rules, not just protection. You can set up prod rules. You can set up stage rules. You can set up rules that still allow CodeQL stuff to run. Basically, to me, it is a governance
Jira
model.
For GitHub.
It's Jira for GitHub.
Huh? Is that the one?
It's Jira. it's Jira. What is it called in Jira? It's workflow automation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of, you can create anything you want now, and there is full flexibility until you go crazy and then start hating it.
Yep. Well, this is what it says. This is the phrasing I was looking for. Compliance and security controls. Beyond just protection, which was good. So anyway, this is now available. They're just normal repositories. So anyway, have examples and everything else. So GitHub Repository Rules, now GA. One more GitHub item, sort of. GitHub Copilot Trust Center.
Okay. What is it?
Providing transparency about how GitHub Copilot works and helps organizations innovate responsibly with generative AI. My interpretation of that, our lawyers made us say this.
There is a second interpretation, is enterprises did not allow people to use Copilot without it. Kind of,
Again,
our sales are not going that well, kind of, you know.
Again, our opinions, don't take anything that we're saying. We're being sarcastic, and we're being
or not. Okay.
But anyway,
this is a fun day.
They now have, yeah, it is. They now have a way to sort of deal with this and help make you feel a little more warm and fuzzy.
No, but in all seriousness, yes, that was a concern that I heard from quite a few companies. Hey, because I'm a huge fan of Copilot, and then the complaint is always the same. We cannot use it because we don't know what it's doing. We don't know what it's sending. We don't know what it's receiving. We don't know what the heck is going on. We cannot use it. And I think that this is the response to that complaint.
It's this sentence right here. By following good coding practices, taking advantage of built-in safeguards, they can feel confident in the code they're contributing. Like, I still have a problem with keystroke loggers, which is effectively what an extension is inside of VS Code. And watching everything and knowing that what I'm typing is going somewhere. I don't like that. It's not that I'm against it. I just don't like it. So I have to think even more carefully day to day of, okay, what am I using right now? But anyway, what you'll find in the Trust Center. AI is here to stay. We'll see what the regulatory authorities have to say about that. But yes, in general.
It's here to stay. There is no...
Look.
It cannot not stay. Now, the worst thing that can happen is that some country brings up regulations that prevent usage of AI, which will continue existing and being developed and being used elsewhere, and then that country is going to go down the drain because of that. Unless somebody has the power to create worldwide legislation, which is not going to happen.
No, because even within our own countries, we can't even agree. So how you get the whole world to agree?
Exactly.
Yeah. Sebastian nails it here. Something to make your manager let you use it.
Exactly.
Well, and here's the questions. What personal data is used and how? Okay, good. A prompt is blah, 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 blah. Copilot for Business uses the source code in your IDE only to generate a suggestion. Okay. But what if I have code in my IDE open that is proprietary?
It's still what...
It's got to leave my machine to go somewhere to analyze it. Because it's not analyzing on device.
Yeah, I don't know whether it has to... Yeah, it has to go out, probably.
It would have to, right?
Yeah.
I'm following the breadcrumbs here.
But the question is really whether it stays somewhere or it's just ephemeral.
Right, and that's what it says here is, does not use your code to train the Azure OpenAI model.
Exactly.
So if they're really taking it and dropping it, still not happy.
I mean,
but you're
it
telling
always goes, to be clear, it always goes somewhere, right? If you now open your laptop and connect to the private repository of your organization, it's going from there to your laptop and passing God knows how many points throughout that journey, right? So that's already happening. The question is only whether it's only transient or stays somewhere.
Right. Now what's interesting here is GitHub Copilot for individual users, what you and I use, right, because neither of us have business accounts, can opt in and explicitly provide consent for their code to be used as training data.
Fair enough.
As long as it's truly opt-in, which I haven't looked at recently.
Yeah. But Microsoft is the least controversial company among the big companies. Apple, Amazon. How often do you hear, every once in a while, frequently we hear things, oh, Amazon is doing this, or Apple is doing that, or Google is doing that. How often do you hear those things from Azure?
Is it because nobody's using it? Is it because no one is using it?
Azure? Well, I think that it's on a
use
path
some.
to actually pass AWS.
Ooh. Based on their numbers last week, their numbers went way down in
usage numbers or
Azure
money numbers?
Azure money numbers.
Yeah, money number is different, but from the usage perspective, I think that they're slowly catching up.
Well, the reason why they're going to be catching up right now is because of the OpenAI as a service.
They're making all the right moves, right?
Yeah.
I repeated many times, and I'm going to repeat again. The purchase of GitHub was the best purchase any big company ever made.
Period?
Period.
Even better than IBM buying Red Hat?
Yeah, Red Hat has a, kind of... IBM did not have answer to what's happening right now, cloud and what's or not, and then bought Red Hat that doesn't have that answer either. Now, there is money to be made with Red Hat, And Red Hat is definitely a positive development for IBM. So I'm very positive towards that. But I'm not sure that Red Hat is the future. Sorry, all Red Hatters over there listening.
That's okay. I don't know what the future is.
What do you mean you don't know? AI, it said there. It's here to stay.
That's
It said
true.
it.
It's here to
And you read it.
Anyway, goes through all the stuff. Anyway, we're sort of going deeper today. Trust Center is now available if you want to try to figure things out. I think the key part to me, not being a business user, was this one section here. Can opt in and explicitly provide consent. So now I need to go and check the extension and see what it says.
Yeah.
Because if it's checked, I know I didn't check it. Not that I'm
No,
paranoid
but
or anything.
explicitly provide consent means that doesn't matter what it is, it will have to, if it's not already, it will have to ask you explicitly. So it's not the other way around. Hey,
Right.
you can opt in, opt out.
Opt out, yeah. So at least if this is true, and I have to assume that it is, then this was the right way to do it instead of being smarmy and going the other direction. It's like, oh, well, now you have to opt out, but in order to opt out, you have to go to 15 different levels, sacrifice a couple of doves, and everything will be fine.
You know, at the end of the day, think of it this way. Does really Azure, OpenAI, Microsoft, what's not, do they really have interest in your code? Let's face it, vast majority of the code that matters is open. I mean, for what matters for AI?
For
course,
initial
not what
training,
matters-
yes. Yeah, I
Exactly.
agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, what, you need a specific algorithm and it's not open? Really?
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that is Trust Center from GitHub Copilot. Let me ask this. Okay. What would you say about Sonar or Grafana that you create a resource there? I don't understand the question. Does it make
I
sense to you?
guess the question, I'm interpreting the question or guessing to be more precise. What do you think about using those since they are SaaS, cloud, what's not, right?
Oh. Well, it's talking about Gitty probably. Trying to tie it
I
back.
think it continues from Git. And at least from my perspective, there is a huge difference on how much you trust or don't trust some company, right? Do you trust? So Grafana, if you go and check, I'm pretty sure that it's stated clearly somewhere that data that is sent to Grafana is not really, does not contain anything confidential. And so there is nothing really to hide, assuming that you trust them. And that's the real question. Do you trust that when a company says, I'm doing this, they're doing that?
Yeah, okay. So this wasn't Gitty. So it's when you're using Sonar Cloud, you're doing static analysis. So you had to ship it to them anyway.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it's the same thing. What I'm still hesitant on from a GitHub Copilot perspective is, although I like the data that comes back from when I'm typing, how do I know that that is data that was approved to be used for training? That's an ethical problem to me, right? That's where I'm at. Because
I think that there are two very opposing problems there, right? There is ethical problem, sure, I completely agree, and then there is performance problem, meaning that you might not be as performant as some other people doing the same thing without adopting certain things, right? And I'm not talking about any specific technology, right? It changes over time. So there is always that thing. And then, of course, regulatory and security and so on and so forth, right? But you need to somehow balance. You know, security is the best example. The best way to be most secure is to never expose anything to or from internet.
Right.
Will you be able to be productive? Oh, of course not. And you know, my laptop cannot even use Google. That's secure. Right? That's the level of security that really, really makes everything secure. But you cannot do one at the expense of the other.
maybe.
You need to balance.
You got to balance. Okay. Let's go ahead and get back into where we were at here. So, a handful of announcements. Kubeflow was donated from Google to the CNCF. Do you know what
Very
Kubeflow
cool.
is?
Machine learning, something.
Machine learning, yep. So it's all about machine learning. Machine learning toolkit for Kubernetes. And it went in as, did I miss it? Incubating. Yep. So, yay. More machine learning and AI coming at us. I guess at some point we'll have to learn it. Or it's going to learn us. Which one is it?
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we're all specialized in something, and
Yeah.
it's silly to think that we need to learn everything, right?
Yeah.
As users, that's a different thing, right?
Different.
You need to learn machine learning indirectly by. It will be more and more paramount to use all the services like ChatGPT,
Right.
whatever we talked about, right? But that's not the same thing as learning.
Right. That was Kubeflow. Okay, good. And then the other announcement was one we were just talking about. This came out on Wednesday at Black Hat. And I'm still trying to get my head around it because I just saw it about an hour ago. So the alpha release of Chalk. So they go through long stuff. They're telling their backstory. Beginning the challenge. Okay. We would have thought some of the biggest companies would have had this problem nailed. The problem they were talking about is keeping track of what is running where.
Well, good luck.
Yep. Sure, everyone has to go through this blessed pipeline. That sounds familiar. But when there's an issue, we still generally waste plenty of time figuring out exactly what we're looking at. Even people at big banks would tell us, yes, compliance regulations require us that we have that information, but when someone needs it, it's all in a spreadsheet somewhere with some person I barely know, not at the fingertips of the people who need it.
That's my experience with companies is that the more regulations a company has,
The more spreadsheets that exist.
forces it to actually know exactly what's going on, the less they know what's going on.
Yep. There's an inversion principle in place.
Exactly.
People tried, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now Chalk. And they've actually trademarked Chalk.
Impressive.
That's like trademarking potato. Or tomato.
Exactly.
Okay. It's interesting how they're placed.
We should trademark board, and then they must buy our trademark for the next iteration.
Yes. Okay. It'd be a double-ended trademark. Basically helps you get the equivalent of a GPS location history for the software you deploy in all of its incarnations. So basically traceability. Right? This is the tracing part of things, but not tracing from what happened.
Networking,
Yeah, it's tracing. If you found the thing in production, it makes it easy to find where the software lived, going backwards in development. I did the wrong way. Lived goes that direction. Similarly, if you're staring at a Git repository, you can easily connect the dots to see what versions are deployed there. Okay, so it's primarily location.
Sounds very much like GitOps. If you already know where it's in Git, then this will help you connect the dots.
Yep. So anyway, at this point, they talk about other things here. The alpha release is out. However, we're not quite ready to release the source. More polishing we need to do first. Fair enough. My only beef with it at this point is GPL v3. That's my small beef with it right now. But you can start experimenting with it now. So they walk you through the getting started guide. Again, I haven't tried to play with it yet. They've got some ideas here, and they also have a service. That's what it is. So basically, they're open sourcing part of the platform that they have.
Okay.
It's called Chalk.
So it's
I like
kind
the
of
logo.
like a commercial platform. Yeah, very cool. Commercial platform that is getting open sourced.
Part of it, I think.
Yeah.
So just in general, the platform is whatever it is. Developers don't have visibility to production. Should they have visibility to production?
No, they don't care.
There's another one, isn't it? Huh?
They don't care.
They don't care. SREs don't know what's happening in development. They don't care. Security pros are flying blind. That's normal.
Yeah, because security pros don't know either of the first two questions.
Right. They're just generating, going back to the podcast for this week, they're just generating spreadsheets for other people to fill out and closing visibility between it. Yeah, although it sounds fine, I have a problem with point 1 and point 2. SREs don't need to know what's going on in development, and developers don't need to know what's going on in production. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean,
So here's the point. Okay,
depends, right?
It does depend, but broadly speaking, developers are flying blind, yet they're responsible for supporting production. That's a stretch.
Yeah, so if developers are responsible for supporting in production, then that statement is 100% valid, yes.
Correct. But that is not 100% true at organizations across the board.
Now, the thing that is very important there is that when developers are responsible for running something in production, which I'm fully in favor, they're responsible only for their segment of production, right? They still don't want visibility or need visibility into the whole system, unless the system is very small. That's how it is, right? No developer developing an application will ever have the time bandwidth to be responsible for whole production. And it's rarely the case that, hey, I'm responsible for this application in production and I don't know where it is. That would be a tough cookie. Tough thing to sell me.
Yeah. There's a little Easter egg here. I don't know if you can see it, and you can't see my mouse. But if you look towards the left-hand side under the lamp, it looks like a little O'Reilly book there. Do you see it?
Okay.
The little purple.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you deduced it's O'Reilly, but yes. Is it kind of one of O'Reilly animals, right?
It's an animal, and it's just the way that things are laid out in the words at the top of the book.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not be too hard because we haven't looked at it yet. But it's called
Sounds
Crash.
cool.
Yeah.
So if there is a tool that will help me understand where everything is, I'm all for it.
As Sebastian
As easy as
says,
that.
a bit of knowledge can't hurt.
Exactly.
Agreed. Okay, let's move into some tools. KubeFlex from the guys at KubeStellar. Guys, gals, everybody at KubeStellar. A flexible and scalable platform for running Kubernetes control plane APIs.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You can start it up. It uses, I guess you can do kind, whatever. Create a control plane, interact with the control plane, second control plane. Is this good or bad or indifferent?
Yeah, I mean, I need to check it, but there is a rising need to actually manage control planes within a cluster instead of as separate entities, because it's very, very expensive and very complicated to manage, right? I don't know whether that's where this is going, but if it's going, then it's solving a real problem, right? Because think about it. You have 1,000 Kubernetes clusters. Are you going to have times 3,000 nodes for control planes?
No.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. So anyway, this is KubeFlex.
Nice.
KubeFlex. Okay. Next was PassDetective. I got dinged on this the other day. I was actually setting up a credential for, I don't even remember what I was doing. And I took from whatever the vendor said, and it gave me the whole line, the curl line with the credential baked into it, and I pasted it in, ran it, yeah, everything's fine. And then about 5 minutes later in Slack, it's like, hey, it looks like you just put a secret in the command line because there's keystroke loggers on my computer. That's fine. That's what it is. But this is a tool to where I can do that offline. So PassDetective will check your command history for mistakenly written passwords, API keys, and secrets. Right? I think this is good.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you gone in and just typed in?
Written. Okay. So it's checking shell commands, not that you typed the password, but that you wrote the password somewhere.
Correct.
Okay. That's cool.
Yep. So it's you can go through shell history, you can go through extracting secrets, blah blah blah, whatever it is. And here's the pattern match that he's sort of looking for.
Okay. I have so next Monday, I have a video which I'm not going to reveal. But one of the things is that, and one of the features that I'm exploring is doing something like that, but not against patterns, against your secret stores. Right? So find out whether any of the secrets in your secret stores ended up in your file system, among other places.
That sounds interesting.
Because patterns are tricky, right? And they can easily end up, hey, there is this pattern, right? And that pattern is actually perfectly normal in some other situation.
Just the pain of figuring out these patterns. Looking at AWS, it's AKIA, 16 characters after that.
Yeah. And, that one, okay. Very unlikely that I will have something that starts with AKIA. But then you look at, I don't know, Facebook access token. I can bet that if you scan my file system, I have something that matches that. Guaranteed.
Yep.
And I don't use Facebook, FYI.
Right. Okay. Anyway, this is called PassDetective.
Still cool.
Yep. Unfortunately, he's not doing it as a release. You have to install it by doing go install. Now, I haven't checked to see if it's in brew yet or not. But come on.
Okay, don't forget about brew, but give binary. It literally takes close to zero effort.
Give me, just right here.
Yeah.
Of course, you can't see my mouse. Releases. Do a release.
What always surprised me with those cases is that I feel that that's a muscle memory, right? That and many other things are simply muscle memory. When you start a project, forget about public now, what you're open sourcing, right? When you start a new project, each of us has kind of a routine, a muscle memory, right? That forces you to do things no matter whether you plan to do them or no, right? Like, whenever I create a new project, I create git ignore no matter what happens, right? It just happens always. And I feel that that's the same thing with releases. One of the first things I do when I create a project is how to build a binary.
It should be day one to me, but not to everybody else. Okay. Last tool. Let's see if this makes you excited or not.
Okay.
You ready? It's GHH.
Okay.
Not GH.
GHH. Okay.
So it does things the way they... How did they select? A GitHub helper tool does things the GHCLI can't.
Okay. I have a request for those guys. I wanted to be able to delete the project repo.
Delete a repository.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
see.
a huge conversation over there that GH does not want by design to implement deletion of repositories. And it makes me sad because I delete them all the time.
I do too. Create project issue. So create a project issue, creates a new draft issue in GitHub project board.
Nice.
Okay, and then the other one they have right now is sync forks, which is a big deal to me because I do a lot of forking of repositories.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. So sync
or
forks.
Sounds really cool, yes.
Sounds cool, yeah. And right now it's only these two. From Sebastian here, does it not have plugins?
I'm not sure. I don't recall seeing plugins. Yeah, I don't recall seeing it. Okay, extension.
A repository
okay, now there is no yeah, exactly. Okay, now tell me why that project we just saw is not an extension.
Is it? It is
No,
not.
why it's not, right.
No, I was just looking. Did I miss something? Yeah, that's a good question. Why is it not? Because it should be, unless here would be a reason if they're doing things that GH wouldn't want to allow as an extension.
Yeah, if that's the case, then fair enough. Yes, but from what I've seen now quickly, I haven't went through extensions.
Yeah.
This is just putting a file somewhere. Right?
That
It's
would be my
very
guess.
similar to kubectl extensions. Just put it in a path, name it a certain way, and that's about it.
I think
And
so.
if that's the case, then it's not a question whether somebody allows or not.
Right. Create a pre-compiled possible Go or other. Interesting.
Well, cannot have it all.
Anyway. Then I think that's okay. Yep, that's it. And then we get into the videos this week. You had how to debug with ephemeral containers.
So I rarely do such small videos around one tiny feature, but this one I felt was important. Not that known.
I cannot remember the last time you had a video that went less than 25 minutes.
Yeah, I mean I do go to 15 sometimes. I don't plan how long it will be, but yeah, this might be the shortest video I ever made, excluding shorts.
Then you had 2 this week, or at least published, that I found with Whitney.
Yeah.
So the first
First
one was
episode, second season.
right. So this was provisioning a production cluster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming it all went fine. No problems.
It all went fine. Yes. So there's not much to go wrong. We just have. I mean, at the beginning of the episode, I implement whatever is the choice of the previous one. So in the next one, it started more or less by me going through Crossplane because that's the one selected.
Yep.
And the rest is conversation with people, and it's very enjoyable for me because 5 minutes is a limit.
Oh.
No matter, you have 5 minutes to explain why X is good, why people should choose X, and at 5 minutes you're stopped no matter what happens. You're not allowed to continue.
Okay. And the second video was doing, the name was weird to me, configure synchronization with GitOps. So it's just,
Yeah,
what are you trying to do
I mean,
here?
it could be called configure GitOps. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So you had, so was this one the actual work or not the work? This was not the work. The first one,
Not-
so the previous
What do you
one
mean
here,
work?
you did work here, right?
No, so this is the first episode. There was no demo, just
Not a
people.
demo here, okay.
One
people
person
were on this
explaining
one.
cluster API and one person explaining Crossplane,
Okay.
and then the next, and then people vote in between.
Right.
And in this case, they chose Crossplane, and then the next one starts with Crossplane hands-on, and
Right.
then it goes into the next section, which is, hey, one guest for each of those technologies, projects, explain what it is. We vote again. It's likely going to be Argo CD, unless something drastically changed in votes, and then Argo CD will be in the next one, and then we talk about the next subject with guests. It's confusing.
You can tell that I don't watch it all the way through.
That's fine.
Sebastian,
I
it's
don't
great.
watch it either.
You're there, though. It's a great series. I just wish more people would vote for the interesting option.
Yeah, so I feel that what we did in the first season was about development, and that was kind of many of the things very known. And what we're doing here, setting up the baseline for production, it's not really some mysterious tools. People know for most of them. I think that starting from the next chapter, it will be more interesting because when we go into some observability or security or this or that, there will be much more obscure projects, right? Lesser known projects. And then the comment you just made about will make even more, it would be even more interesting to pick things you don't know, you never heard of.
You want to try this one? Because I'm not a Go person.
Yeah, so forget about Go for a second. Contribute to the project you use, not the project that somebody recommends, right? It helps so much simply being familiar with the project, knowing what it does, how it works, and so on and so forth, and then contributing to it. So there is no project suitable for beginner better than the project you are using right now. And if you use more than one, the one you like the most, or you use the most, or you're most interested in, and so on and so forth. So choose what you use. Now, if it's Go, then not the only choice, but almost all projects that are somehow related to Kubernetes are in Go. So there's plenty of options.
It's always an easy and a hard one to answer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what you use, right? I don't know. And now, if you haven't used any, then I think that you should start using projects before starting thinking about contributing, right? And if you do use, and almost everybody, let's say kubectl, right? Contribute to kubectl. Everybody uses kubectl. Helm, whatever, right? Whatever you're using.
Sebastian says here, summer of code should be soon. I'm not sure about that, but I do know Hacktoberfest.
Oof, I thought
It's coming up in
to
October.
take off your shirt.
No, I won't do that to anyone. I would not do that to anyone. But Hacktoberfest is coming up. And you can start looking at repositories that start tagging themselves with Hacktoberfest typically on it, and because they're looking for people to help contribute. So that's the thing I would start looking for.
Yeah. But still, something you're at least remotely familiar with.
And preferably use. Because
imagine that somebody who never used Jenkins, who never got in contact with Jenkins plugins, wants to contribute for summer of code to Jenkins plugins, right? It would be tough, wouldn't it? And I'm using Jenkins as an example, right?
It would be extremely tough. Yeah, and I think the reason why it's something that you want to use as well is you have that little bit of self-gratification to when something renders or something does it, and it's like, I did that.
Exactly.
And then you realize how dumb you are. Because of all the things that had to happen in order for that change that you put in to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it. We'll be back next week. Monday is Victor's video about something. Was that the secret one that's coming this Monday, or is it a different one this Monday?
Yeah, secrets. Something related to secrets.
Secrets on Monday. Are you when are you and Whitney to? Is it Tuesdays?
Tuesday.
So you'll have the
choose your own. You choose.
Right, but you're going to be so more than likely, unless the voting changes, it'll be Argo CD.
Yes. Okay. It's winning big time.
Okay. Wednesday's the podcast. Thursday off, and we'll be back next Friday. Wait, you had something next Thursday. Does that fall into Friday as well?
No, I have something next Wednesday or Thursday, 3rd of August.
You had something on the 3rd, correct?
Yes.
But but that's not falling into the 4th.
No, not falling into the 4th. No.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. So we're back next Friday unless something changes.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody for being here with us live. Yep. The chat is you're close to it. Hacktoberfest. In fact, let me pull it up here for a second because we have a minute. We talked a lot today. Thanks everybody for putting up with us here. Let me type it in here. Hacktober, because I'm sure they haven't started looking for stuff yet. All right, let me switch this to here. Come on, work. Thank you. So they still haven't put 2023 up yet, but it's hacktoberfest.com. I think I can paste it in. Let me check. It's always a good one to follow.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. I think I put in too many things there. I did. I can't tell if it's changing it or not. Yeah. Anyway. Let's see. Ended. Let's see if they're... See you for 2023. Okay. The plan is to do 2023.
Yeah.
That's the thing I would...
Very cool.
If you're not following Hacktoberfest, start following them now. And that way they'll have all this updated. Discord, in fact, I'm assuming the Discord is still active. Yeah, that's the invite. Yeah, it's still active. Holy cow. Okay, we were talking about Discord earlier.
But here's a request, and people are going to hate me for it, to Hacktoberfest. No prizes.
No prizes. Don't worry about them. I mean, yes, I got a shirt, but they're not... like last year, they only did 1,000 shirts. That was it. Period.
Yep. I mean, kind of, they should just say, hey, Whomever puts email here or whatever gets address gets a shirt, no matter whether you contribute or no. I don't think it should be related to contributions, because then we have a huge amount of really silly contributions that just waste everybody's time for the sake of getting t-shirt. You should contribute because it's a good thing to do.
Yep. But looking at Discord for a second, they have 49,000 members and less than 10% are online right now. But the question is, of those 10%, how many of them are actually active inside of this Discord channel? No, not channel.
Yeah, who knows?
Account. That's why I'm still sort of like, I don't know that I want to do Discord. It's one more thing to manage, and I don't have time to manage what I have right now.
Yep, not happening.
Probably not. But if we decide to do social audio, that's the right place to do it, unfortunately.
You just need to find somebody to organize it.
To manage it for free. For free.
Exactly.
And all the
not
legwork.
for free. I think that it would be completely fair to give a percentage of the income from that audio to that person.
It would be. But since we're not charging for it, then it would be a percentage of zero.
Yeah, exactly. Don't reveal the tricks.
It's not a trick. It's the joys of exposing all of that out. Okay, anyway, thanks everybody for being with us here this week, and we will talk to you again next week if I can find the goodbye. And I think this is the goodbye.